I am live. Here we go. Here we go. Well, as the infamously eloquent Mike Tyson once said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's kind of how I'm feeling about the last few days, week, or whatever. So, of this whole plan of going carnivore and fasting for 10 days to work on my gut and clear up my SIBO, IMO issues that I've been dealing with for years. So, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. For everyone that's here live and everyone that catches this on the replay, I'm Kay Miller, and I just wanted to go ahead and introduce myself and let you guys know a little recap for anyone that hasn't been here for the previous episodes that I've been on this journey for quite a few years. Probably started having SIBO in my early 20s and just didn't know what it was. And I'll actually be 50 this year. So that's almost 30 years of having this issue and kind of just dabbling in doing things like low food map or, just kind of really avoiding things that cause me problems. That's been how I managed it for the most part for the last few years. Um, I have tried a few other things like the elemental diet at one point because I did have access to that. Sorry, just moving things around on my screen so that I can see the chat. Welcome, welcome to everyone that is popping in the various places. Please let us know where you are joining from. I love to hear from you. Love to hear what you have to say and what your experiences are too in this world because it's so interesting how many similar things we all go through in life. So I can't think of a better way though to explain my experience besides that quote because like I said I've tried several different things throughout the years and this time around I decided that I would go ahead and try going um, for a 10-day fast and seeing what would happen after about 10 days or so. Actually, it was supposed to be a 7-day fast. Let me back up. The plan was a 7-day fast and seeing what would happen. That turned into a 10-day fast, and I thought it would have gone longer, but unfortunately, I did start to have some complications by breaking out in some rashes that were kind of painful and itchy. And I was like, maybe we don't need to go any further with this. And the reason why I chose that route was because I did not think I would have access to some of the antimicrobials that people use when they are dealing with SIBO, or in my case, it'd be IMO, the high methane version of this gut buildup or bacterial overgrowth, or in the methane case, it's an archaea from what I understand. So still learning a lot. And at this point in time, I just wanted to get on here and share my current update with everyone of how that's going because after the fast, my next plan was to go ahead and go carnivore for about 4 to 6 weeks. So, what is that, like 28 days or so? I only made it to day 22 and I just could not go any further. It just was not happening. It was not possible for me to keep going with that because I felt like I wasn't going to meet any of my other health goals. I love to work out. I have my PRs. I've been building muscle. So already doing a 10-day fast didn't help with muscle growth, of course. And then going 22 days on top of that. So we're at 32 days of not really working out. So that's more than a month that I haven't lifted heavy. And I was not okay with that. But the reason why I hadn't lifted heavy was because of the fatigue and the lack of energy and all of those kinds of things. And to think that after all these years of dealing with SIBO, the thing that made me decide I needed to go so drastic was that I could not enjoy summer fruit anymore. It started with watermelon. For anybody that missed the first couple episodes, was that I just realized that watermelon was making me so uncomfortable and miserable. And then I found out cherries were also high FODMAP. And I was like, we've got to fix this. We've got to find a way to fix this because what fun is that? We all, most of us, I think, find some comfort and joy in certain foods and experiences and things like that. So that's what got me started. And I just wanted to go ahead and share what my experience has been with carnivore. And this is just my personal experience. This is not to say anything for or against that particular pathway as a diet or a I guess you could say health modulating um, aspect of life. I like to think of diets not as permanent things anyway. So like a temporary I'm sorry, there is something on my camera and it's bugging me. So hopefully it's not bugging you guys, but I have to get it off of there. So as a temporary like diet, a temporary modulation or change in how you're getting food and nourishment into your body. So what I thought of when I decided the carnivore diet might be the way for me to go was that it would be a really extreme version of a oh dude, the word elimination. A very extreme version of an elimination diet, which is basically what low FODMAP is. It's also an elimination diet. You take out all of these things that have high fructose and that have all these sugars and things in it that ferment in your stomach out of your diet so that supposedly the bad bacteria can die off because they have nothing to feed off of and your gut can get back to normal. That was not working for me because I guess it's only part of the solution. You're also supposed to take like the antimicrobials or the antibiotics or something like that to actually kill off um, the bacteria because they can actually just go dormant and hide out in like a biofilm or something until you feed them again, is what I understand at this point from everything that I've been reading and researching and doing and experiencing. So, I guess the easiest way to express to you guys what happened would be maybe to break down the last few days and what my experience was, because I think the last update I did here on the podcast was day 17. So I'm going to pull up my notes right now because I don't have the days memorized of what happened exactly on which day, but I did document it. I wanted to take good documentation of this process so that I could really see what was going on, since I'm self-assessing everything and doing this on my own without actual medical supervision, which I do not highly recommend if you are dealing with something serious like SIBO or other gut intestinal bowel issues. Definitely find a doctor that you can work with. The only reason I felt comfortable doing this somewhat was because I do have some previous training in the gut and the microbiome as a health coach in order to help clients. And I did have some protocols and things like that for SIBO, which I have tried in the past. Like I said, like making my own elemental shake, but unfortunately not having all the ingredients and seeing how that doesn't quite work. You kind of need all the ingredients. And so when I decided to embark upon this mission, the reason I chose to do the fasting and the carnivore is because I didn't think I would have the antimicrobials available to me. But as I was going through the process, some of you may have noticed that I did find the antimicrobials, at least some of them. I was able to find NAC, berberine, and oregano oil. And those are the three that I decided to go ahead and take. And so I had been taking them for a while. I started with the NAC first, did that for a couple days, and then I added in berberine and did that for a couple days. And then I added in the oregano oil. And everything was going fine until day 14. So on day 14, for some reason, I had a brain fart and I took the berberine 3 times, which I think is supposed to be okay. But I also took the oregano oil 3 times and the NAC 3 times. So I took them with all 3 meals because at first I was only getting in like maybe 2 meals a day. 1 meal a day, then 2 meals a day. Then eventually I got to 3 and I was like, yay, I'm at 3 meals a day. I can take all of the antimicrobials and really kill these things off. Like I want to get rid of them. And I think that's what was going through my head that day. And I didn't really think about it then because I didn't even realize I did it. And then day 15, I was kind of nauseous that whole night of day 14. So I wrote that down in my notes in the morning on day 15 that I was nauseous all night. I did go for a morning walk. And my bowels were okay, like things were moving. Everything seemed to be going in the right direction except that nausea. And I really, really started considering to quit that day because I just felt so terrible. Um, and then the next day, I felt kind of tired and weak. And the day 17, I felt tired and weak. And that's the day that I believe I updated everybody that I was still kind of tired, a bit nauseous, kind of, in and out of this feeling of I'm getting better, I'm not quite getting better, I'm getting better, not quite getting better. And also, I was a little bored. I have to admit, I was a little bored with the carnivore diet. I know it's not supposed to be about entertaining yourself when you eat. That's usually a slippery slope for people. I even tried bacon. Bacon's okay, guys. I don't know what the big deal is. Honestly, I'm sorry. I guess I'm a bacon hater. I like turkey bacon because that's what I grew up on, and sizzling. And I've said that before. I like them. I think they're better. I don't know what the big fuss is about pork bacon. I wasn't a fan, but I tried it. So day 17 was the day that I updated you all, but I updated you early in the day. So you didn't really know about what happened later that night. I ended up staying up all night. It was a rough night. The next day, I just wasn't hungry. I just really, really wasn't very hungry at all. I kind of forced myself to eat. And then the next day, the same thing. I kind of forced myself to eat. I'm getting in like one meal, and it's like one egg and a little bit of ground beef. And the meals just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so that was concerning to me that I wasn't eating enough and that I didn't want to eat more. So I'm like, okay, how am I going to get energy to do anything if I'm not even eating? So that was part of the reason why I was thinking maybe this isn't working out for me. Maybe there's something going on here that I should reconsider. And I did look back and saw and realized that I did take all 3 of those pills that day. And I figured on day 19 to just dial it back. And I went to taking just the NAC again. So I dropped the berberine and the oregano oil, kind of like, let's reset and see what happens. So day 19 and day 20, I took just the NAC. I did not take the other items. And it didn't help. Like, I still wasn't feeling very good. I still was very tired and weak all day. My appetite was still just not there. And this was also during my period. So I'm like, well, maybe it's my period. Maybe it's this. I don't know what's going on. Because I'm usually not that hungry during that period, anyways. I usually will fast like for 3 days, but I just did a 10-day fast. So there was no reason to fast again. So I had all these different things going on. And as you guys know, I like to talk about harmony and balancing all of these things together instead of trying to fit things into neat little buckets. Sometimes there's the ebbs and flows. So I wasn't really sure which ebbs and flows were working for me and which ones were working against me. And then by day 21, I was just like, this isn't working. I'd stopped. I didn't even take the NAC on day 21. I barely had like a half of a hard boiled egg and half a can of tuna or so for breakfast. So this was just getting really, really down to almost, what do you call it, fasting again on day 21. And then I made like a whole chicken, like, which I had done a few times throughout the process. And I only eat the chicken breast. It's the only part I like. And so I was trying to get myself to eat a little bit of that chicken breast and butter that night. And I just couldn't. I even was like gagging. It was so hard to eat. So I was like, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep doing this. So the next morning, I did some eggs and some ground beef, and still, like, I just did not. I had no desire to eat it. So I was like, you know what? We're going to stop. We're going to stop this experiment because I tried getting rid of the antimicrobials and I didn't feel better. I wasn't eating, and that's not a good idea for survival rates. I mean, we do need to eat as humans. So that afternoon, I had a half of a cup of rice and some salt because rice should be a safe item as far as low FODMAP is concerned. And I was just so craving carbs. I am a carb girly. Like, I just want bread and pretzels and pizza and cake. And yeah, I know it's not good for you from a health aspect, but I just really, really felt like I needed some carbs for some energy so I could like get up and move and think and function again. And what do you know? It may have been placebo. It could have all just been in my mind. But after that half a cup of rice, I was like, yeah, let's go. We're alive again. And then later on that night, I had a whole cup of rice with 2 eggs and salt and butter. And then the next morning, I had, 2 eggs and half a cup of rice. My appetite was slowly coming back. So day 23, I did the same thing. I added some rice with my ground beef and my butter. So now I'm having the 2 meals a day again, and it's more substantial. It's not full meals, but they're still bigger than what I was doing. And so I kept going. And then day 25, I was like, we've been feeling good the last couple days. Let's try the NAC again and see, if we're ready for that. And no, it wasn't good. I was nauseous again that afternoon, but it was also a very, very hot day. So I wasn't really sure if it was the heat or the NAC that was causing that nausea that day. So I was like, let's just back off again and give our bodies a little bit more time for the NAC. I also broke out in a rash again. So my face broke out again. I was getting stuff all on the bottom of my chin, the back of my neck, my back. It was just itchy and inflamed and all of that again. So that led me to believe that something was going on in my system, perhaps with the low food intake and the antimicrobials that either my body was doing like a keto flu, but I never even thought about that until afterwards when I'm looking back at it, that because I didn't think carnivore and ketosis, and for some reason those two didn't click in my head together. And maybe I was in ketosis, and that also has an effect on your appetite. Sometimes it can cause you to have less of an appetite, or also that it could have been die off. So I'm not really sure which one it was. I don't know if there's any professionals out there that can tell at all from any of my symptoms or the pattern whether it was more likely ketosis or a die off. I would think that with the hormonal kind of rash breaking out thing, maybe more so die off. I don't know. We are still, the verdict is still out. And so, um, the NAC, I was just like, no, forget it. Never mind. We're not doing this right now. We'll just go for about a week, is my plan, to try and go about another week, see if I get my appetite fully back, see if I'm eating, full meals, if I can eat 2 to 3 times a day, or at least the equivalent of 2 to 3 times a day worth of calories, because I was eating way below my caloric needs for my body to function. And I was like, that's not good. I need to at least get enough calories that my body should be able to function. That's, a reasonable amount of food to eat each day. Um, but yeah, so that's what got us to where we're at today. So day 26, day 27, just slowly adding more food. I got up to 3 eggs. And then this morning I had 4 eggs with my rice. I also added in cucumber. So I've added in rice and I've added in cucumber. I'm trying to wean myself kind of off the rice and more into just having a little bit of cucumber and see if that will be enough to keep me going with the carnivore. I think one of the main things with the carnivore is just the lack of variety for me. I can only eat so much egg at a time. Like even this morning, having the 4 eggs with the rice, great. If I was just to have 4 eggs by themselves, it would have taken me forever to eat it because it's just not enjoyable. I don't know. Other people might find it enjoyable and tasty, but it's just not a thing for me. Um, so also not having all the seasonings like parsley or oregano or fun stuff like that in my eggs to help with flavor and texture. So I'm trying to get to the point where I can try enough things to bring back in spices. And then maybe once I have spices, I can eat more meat with spices, if that makes sense. Like if you can actually just at least flavor your meat, then it's more enjoyable to eat than just salt and butter. I've never been the give me a steak with some salt and butter on it kind of girl. I've been an A1 steak sauce kind of girl my whole life. And Worcestershire sauce. So if you guys like seasoning your meat with Worcestershire sauce and dipping your steak in some A1, please let me know that I am not alone, that you all enjoy those things too. Some barbecue sauce on your chicken. I don't know, some cocktail sauce for the shrimp. Like if I could have those things, I think it'd be easier to eat carnivore, but then I guess it wouldn't be strict carnivore, which is what I was trying to do to actually kill off the archaea or whatever it may be that is in my gut that wants to feed off of everything else and make my tummy miserable. So I think that covered the whole plan of where I went wrong. Like I said, I think where I went wrong was really taking all 3 of the antimicrobials that one day, 3 times a day. I think that just really overloaded my system, and also not getting in enough adequate nutrition around that to handle those antimicrobials, I think is why my body was like, no, we don't like this. And so I've been doing like ginger tea and Like this one, I put a cinnamon stick in it also to help. I haven't been nauseous the last couple days, but I've also been keeping the AC on just to make sure, um, in hopes that when I get around to trying the NAC again, I'll be able to rule out the fact that it's just heat because I've also had the AC on. So I don't think that I'll be able to rule out whether it's die off or not. Well, I guess I could, because if I'm not in ketosis because I'm eating carbs, then if I have a similar reaction, perhaps we could assume that it's die off. Um, I don't know what else it would be that would be causing the rashes and depleting my appetite. So if you guys have any ideas, I'd love to know, because I still think that carnivore as a way to kind of reset your gut and as a elimination diet is a good idea if you can manage it for a short period of time. Like I said, I was only trying to do it for 4 to 6 weeks, anyways, and then I was going to slowly start bringing back in foods, just to try them, not to eat them every day, but just to see how my body responded in a low FODMAP way, and to see if the antimicrobials basically were working or not. But now we kind of have to start all over again. So I'm wondering what you guys think. I'd love to hear your ideas, because I know that during my research over the last few weeks, I was seeing a lot of the top um, doctors that deal with SIBO and IMO and all of that, and they were saying that the diet didn't matter, that just getting your antimicrobials or getting your antibiotics was more important than what you were doing, and that they cared more about you getting your antimicrobials and not being miserable than they did about your diet, and that it didn't matter. If I knew that in the beginning, and if I knew I would have access to the antimicrobials, I might have skipped this whole torture experiment, because I am not a masochist. I did not need to go on a 10-day fast or go carnivore. If I knew that, I probably wouldn't have. I don't know. But it has been fun as far as the scientific aspect. I do love research, and I don't mind researching on myself and testing things on myself to see how they go. So it has been interesting to see how my body reacted to a carnivore diet. And I think that if anyone else is thinking about trying one out, maybe this will give you some information on things you might experience. You might not, because it may have been the NAC that was causing it, or the berberine, or something else, the oregano oil, who knows. Combination of all of them may have been causing some of my symptoms, and they may have had nothing to do with carnivore. Or it may have been like a classic ketosis, keto flu type of thing that was happening that I just did not think about. It just didn't dawn on me for some reason. And I don't know what the solution is to that. I suppose if you go through the keto flu, I don't think it lasts very long. I think it's supposed to be a time period where your body is kind of recalibrating from running on carbs to running on fat. So I probably could have waited it out a little longer if I knew that's what was going on, but I don't know how long that long is. And after already going for the 10 days of fasting, it was kind of like, I want my body back. I want my energy back. I want to get back to the gym. I want to get back to working out. Another thing that I missed out on because of this was I thought I would have been back in the gym sooner, which means I would have been weighing myself and measuring myself and seeing any kind of changes in my physical outward, part of my body as well. But since I just had like no energy and have been to the gym like 0 times during all of this, I have no idea. I mean, I have an idea, like based on how my clothes fit and how I look in the mirror, that I've definitely lost some inches in areas, I guess you could say. But I really don't know how much my weight or shape has fluctuated. So that would have been interesting to know. Um, but I have worked out a little bit at home. Like I have, some things here that I've been able to do some light lifting. I did some Pilates. I did walking every day. I have been walking every single day. I think there was only one day I missed going outside. And I'm sure there was some extenuating circumstances there. I don't know if I was just extremely exhausted or if it was extremely hot or I was super busy. But it was only one day that I think I missed the walk. And the other thing that I thought was really, really interesting in this process was when I go for my walk, there are a particular set of stairs that I have to go up, and they were killing me for the longest time as I would go for this walk. A lot of this walk was killing me. Like I felt like an old lady, partially because it's just so hot outside, and partially because there's hills and stairs and ups and downs. But the day that I started the rice, I went up the stairs almost with no problem. I think I was on the last 2 or 3 steps before I started to have any struggles. And the next day too, the same thing. Now, yesterday and today, I avoided the stairs, honestly, because it's just too damn hot outside. Like, I just want to get to point A and point B as quickly as possible and get what I need to get and get back home and get things done. So we will see how the stairs go tomorrow. I will make sure to take the stairs tomorrow. Um, and see how that goes. But yeah, I thought that was very, very interesting that as soon as I got the carbs in my body, I was able to take those stairs with no problem, pretty much. So I think that we've always known that our bodies are efficient, I guess you could say, at running on carbs. Like we can use that quicker and easier. Like our bodies like that. But our bodies are also really, really good at running on ketones and running on fat. But I think your body has to adapt to it. And my body's been running on carbs so long, it wasn't adapting, perhaps. That's all I can say. Or it was adapting very slowly, because I would have thought that the 10 days of carnivore would, not carnivore, the 10 days of fasting would have already put me in ketosis, so that when I went carnivore, it would have just used the fat that I was giving it in that diet. But maybe I wasn't giving it enough fat. I mean, chicken breast, there's like no fat in chicken breast. But most of the days I was eating steak. I was getting eggs. I had pork chops a couple times. I had shrimp, salmon. So, I don't know. That's another good thing to think about. If maybe I wasn't getting enough fat for my body to run off fat. So I don't know what the numbers are for that, how people measure it. I never really looked too much into keto, and because I don't like fat. I'm not a fat eater. I'm not one of those people that's just like, give me the fattiest piece of steak and I just want to eat the edges. No. I'm like, hide the fat inside so that I can eat it without knowing that I'm eating it, or burn it to a crisp so that it's like crispy batter chicken skin fat, and then I'll eat it. And I don't know if that still has enough nutrients and things in it once you burnt it to a crisp, and that's like the only way I'll eat it. So we do have the fat issue. We addressed the NAC if it was that issue. The heat could have been an issue. There's so many different variables, and this is why it's really, really good to have somebody that you can work with and trust and talk to. A good health professional that knows what they're doing, understands their craft, understands the human body to the best of our ability these days. I mean, we only understand so much. We wish we understood more about the human body than we do, but we like to pretend like we know a lot more, I think, than we do. As time goes on, I'm sure we'll continue to learn more and more about the human body. And I just think it's a phenomenal, phenomenal piece of equipment to experiment with. I think we're lucky to be able to have this experience on Earth and to be able to try these things. So I just wanted to say all of that to say that it wasn't just like, oh, I'm done with this carnivore thing and I hate it and I'm quitting. It was really a struggle that I liked the idea of it. I liked the concept of it. I liked all the great stories I was hearing from other people about healing this and healing that. And, at the same time, though, I wonder how many things were actually healed because of carnivore diet, and how many things were actually healed because of getting rid of garbage. And I do know that there's one young lady that I did watch talking about her carnivore experience and how a lot of people say it's just an elimination diet, but she said she was eating healthy before. I thought I was eating healthy before too, before I had my health challenges. And I think that we just don't realize that healthy is different from one individual to another. And what works for one person's body may not work well for another. Like we forget that people have legit allergies. Like I can eat peanuts all day, but don't give them to my daughter. Okay, that's not a good idea. So it's the same thing with quote unquote health foods or healthy foods. So I think that we really have to look at what we're eating and how it's affecting us. And if we can take the time to do some sort of elimination diet at some point in our lives, if we are struggling with things, if you're struggling with arthritis or restless leg syndrome. I know I had that once a long time ago. If you're having bowel discomfort, gas, bloating, if you're having rashes, eczema, rosacea, all of these things, all of these symptoms that we see as these inconveniences and these things that we have to find a medication or a cream or something for. I think that if a lot of people took the time to do some sort of elimination diet, they might find that it is something that they're eating or not eating that their body needs or is craving or doesn't want. Or also, sometimes it's nervous system regulation, just really taking that time to reset, to allow your body to get out of fight or flight and actually rest and rejuvenate and relax. And a lot of us don't do that because we're so busy going in this world. So there's a lot of different little tiny pieces that fit into this whole organism of being healthy, eating healthy, living a healthy life. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that part as well because it's not as simple as, oh, I went carnivore and now I'm healed. Because I don't think that carnivore necessarily heals anything, but I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor. So, but that's what I've come to the conclusion of with this, what do you call it, experiment. Um, so going forward, like I said, the plan is to stay here for a little while, get my body used to eating normal foods again. Um, I guess I should say meats and carbs instead of just meat again. And then I will add the antimicrobials back in. I'm not sure yet when I will add them back in, if I'm going to give it another week, if I'm going to add in some more low FODMAP foods first. But I think having, if I could do meat and vegetables at least, like, some ground beef and some cucumbers or, you know, eggs and tomatoes. I think those are not low FODMAP, but you get the idea. Maybe bell peppers. If I can do something like that to where I'm getting enough food into my body within 2 meals a day, and it's not heavy starch, heavy, rice and potatoes. That's not really where I wanted to start when I introduced food back in. My plan was to start with like cucumbers and green beans and, vegetables like that, not really rice and potato, but I was so nauseous that I just felt like rice was the right way to go. Um, so I'd like to go that route instead and probably drop the rice because I wasn't really eating much rice before this, anyways. I had pretty much dropped that out of my diet, keeping it only for certain meals. But because I know I'll lean too much on it. I know I can just eat a whole pot of rice. Like it's sugar, basically. I know people don't think about that. If you're dealing with diabetes and things like that, you get rid of all these sugars, but you still have all this rice in your diet and bread and all this stuff that still turns into sugar in your system. And sometimes you need to get rid of that too. So I think that going forward, I will try and focus more on slowly adding in some other vegetables and getting rid of the rice. And then maybe once I'm pretty stable with meat and vegetables that are not causing me symptoms, then I will start adding in the antimicrobials again and see if I can do that for the good 4 to 6 week protocol for the antimicrobials. And then we can start trying the fun stuff, the watermelons and cherries and stuff of that I couldn't handle before that led us here and see what happens. Because that's the goal. The goal is to be able to eat a full, healthy diet, to be able to process and digest foods that are here and available to us. I know there's argument on that, on whether these foods are even good for us, and they've been so frankenfruited and bastardized that they're not even close to what they used to be. I saw what a watermelon used to look like, and it didn't look as tasty as the ones we're eating today. So maybe it's just not something we need to be eating. I don't know, but I'll find out and I'll let you know. And I just really appreciate those of you that have joined in for these last few episodes and been chatting with me on my various social media platforms and sharing your experiences and your thoughts and just all of the information that is out there today is so useful for anyone that's dealing with these type of things. And that's why I wanted to go ahead and share my experience too, to add it to the volumes of things that are out there so that other people can see another experience, another, what do you call it, framework or another viewpoint. And so I think I've covered everything. Let me just double check my notes to make sure I didn't miss something. Um, yeah. So, yep. So ketosis, the appetite suppression, we talked about that, the die-off reactions, all of that overlapping. Who knows? But I don't know if there is a way to really test that in a clinical manner. So hindsight, again, I might have just skipped all of this and just added in the antimicrobials and kept eating how I was eating, maybe just more low FODMAP. I really, really want to get back into the gym. And you guys may have seen that I've gone on a little Temu kick. So I've got a little Temu gym going on at the house now. So I really want to get my first workout in on that and see how it goes. So I can let you guys know how my Temu gym turned out. And let's see. I think that is it. So I'd love to know if you guys can let me know in the comments if you've ever had a plan for something and had to walk it back because it just wasn't working, even after you did your best to commit to it so hard, like you really, really gave it all, your all. I'd love to hear how you knew it was time to change course. Because I think we all have these experiences in life with our relationships, with jobs, with business deals. There's all kinds of areas in life where we have the best laid plans. Like I said in the beginning, that everybody has a plan to get punched in the face. And then something changes. And this is just another reminder to let loose of that grip a little bit and learn to live in the moment, because living in harmony is about that ebb and that flow and just listening to what your body is telling you and adjusting. And that's what I did. So, and that also includes listening to your nervous system, like I was saying earlier, trusting your gut. And for us ladies that are still menstruating, also honoring our cycle. So if you missed last week's episode on that very topic with Gigi Hunt, you should go check it out now. I just want to thank you all for joining me today for this episode of the Harmony Principle podcast. If you want the show notes and key takeaways, you can use the link in the description to grab the Harmony letter. And this episode was brought to you by Kimemeki, where moms go to heal and grow in the garden. And you can experience our community for free at www.kimemeki.com, or click on the link in the description to join us at our next brunch in the garden, which is actually tomorrow. And it's a super fun event where we brainstorm, we plan, we learn, we troubleshoot, we do all kinds of amazing things together in this group of amazing, phenomenal women. And this is not just like a webinar or a standard networking event or something boring like that. It's a curated space for exhausted moms to connect, recharge, and build together. And I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Again, like I said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you do not miss us. And we will see you next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Harmony Principle podcast, where rhythm is not something you find, it's something you return to. See you soon.